Well, as you know, over the last few days, the Scientific Organizing Committee of the conference has been very busy beavering away, creating the conference declaration. You've received numerous drafts over the course of the last few days. It is now ready. Let's find out more about it. It's aimed, of course, at the Rio Plus 20 Earth Summit in a few months' time, but it also has a longer life, we hope. It's a kind of manifesto of this conference, what the new science is about. So, to tell us more about the conference declaration, let's welcome the conference co-chairs, Lidio Brito and Mark Stafford-Smith, and also our chief scientific advisor, Elinor Ostrom herself. Welcome up, Elinor. Come on, come on. This is the moment we're waiting for.
Good morning, everybody. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to have Professor Ostrom with us, and for me and Mark, yes. Really to have the chance and to present to you the State of the Planet Declaration. It's a great honor and I think a great emotional moment, yes. Because it has been amazing, the process to really capture the key messages that we heard during these days and to make sure that whatever message we as co-chairs, supported by the Scientific Organizing Committee, put forward and take to Rio Plus 20 really reflect the commitment of all of you. I want also, before passing the floor to Mark, just to say that we see this declaration as a living document. The richness of the debates, the solutions that are coming up, the actions that we are sure will continue to happen as we leave London and go back to our places of living and work, we need to capture that somehow in the document. We are hoping that through an interaction with us and with the results that we'll receive from the conveners, we will be able to enrich this declaration by adding to it evidence that both the scientific community, the decision-making community, business, civil society, has discussed and reflect and come up with strong commitments. We need to support this declaration with evidence, and we need to support this declaration also with actions. And it's indeed a pleasure to be now here and pass to you, Mark, yes. The responsibility to tell all of us what we saw as key messages.
Okay, thank you, Lidia, and good morning, everyone. And it is indeed fantastic. And let me echo Lydia's thanks to very many people for, enormous amounts of input. If we look slightly pale and wan, we were up quite late trying to pull all this together too. I'm not going to read the thing out. This thing should be appearing on your emails as we speak, if not already, and it's going live on the website too and available there. And I guess what I'd like to do is just to give you a sense of what's in there, just to talk a little of the narrative without actually reading it through in detail. So the declaration starts with really trying to place the sense of urgency of the problems that we have in front of us, and it says, in fact, as the opening sentence, that the research now demonstrates, as I think we have heard at the conference, that the continuing functioning of the Earth system, as it has been in supporting the well-being of human civilization in recent centuries, is at risk. So this is a really urgent issue. Having said that, even starting to talk to media about it, they say, well, what's new about that? People have been saying that for 20 years. And so I think the rest of the declaration, apart from expanding on that, tries to make the case very strongly that in the last decade, since the last of these conferences, we really have seen three broad areas of science advance significantly in ways which I think help to explain to us, help us to understand what it is that we're now facing. And we've heard about all of these, so let me just touch on them briefly, and we'll hear more about them again this morning. But the first one, then, is the idea of the Anthropocene, the fact that we as a human race are now a major geological scale driving force on the planet. and the implications that has for the possibility that we really have biophysical planetary boundaries that we need to manage, and the concept that I think flows out of that of planetary stewardship. Now this, in the declaration itself, we outline these 3 points. We give 3 points that potentially are the implications for the way science and science policy interacts into the future, and then 3 points which relate particularly to the agenda at Rio. Here, let me just take them a little bit less orderly and say that the implication of this Anthropocene really is that we have to go beyond thinking about sustainable development, beyond even universal sustainable development, because even if every country was developing sustainably, we could still fail to meet our real need, which is global sustainability. So that has implications for Rio, which we touch on in the document. For example, that the proposed Sustainable Development Goals really do need to try and think about that in a way which adds together to global sustainability and flows on through all levels of governance to do that. The second really important area, I think, which is a bit abstract in its statement but is really important in the way everything functions, is the incredible interconnectedness of our world today. And I think, again, in the last 10 years, we've come to understand the implications of that in terms of the links between the environment and society and economies, but in many, many other ways that we've heard about at the conference here. And this is a double-edged sword. This raises both risks but also great opportunities, which we've heard a fair bit about here. It raises risks in that we don't deal with those elements, those interconnected elements, very well, and so by dealing with one at a time, we often find them in conflict. And so for Rio, as the DG has just said, it is crucial that we find really concrete ways to combine these 3 pillars, the 3 pillars, the environment, social and economic pillars, in much more profound ways, in the individual goals that may be set there, in the ways in which our international organisations operate, and also, I think, in the course of doing that, empower. Part of the interconnectedness is empowering global networks of local activity in a much more profound sort of way. The third area, which is really important, and I should just say that our science needs to respond to that with power in the way that we take a much more interdisciplinary and interlinked sort of approach to the work that we do, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. The third major area of advance, I think, which has really significantly moved on in the last decade, and represented very much by Lynn here, is the whole area of social science and our better understanding, actually much more insightful understanding of the limitations of our governance systems for dealing with the complex problems that we're facing, but also many other areas which we've heard about here, such as the issues around equity that Richard Wilkinson was talking about yesterday, and our understanding of new measures of well-being and many other things. So this, in the institutional aspect, again, has implications for Rio. I won't spell them all out, but it does include trying to think about changes in governance at all levels. But here I want to talk a bit more about the implications for our science, because, again, it says that we need to do that integrated science better and bring the social and humanities areas of research into the work that we have been presenting on the global front in a much more integrated way. But we also need to cement a much more effective interface with society, whether that's policy or industry or civil society. And in these times of accelerating change, in essence, we need a global innovation system that much more consciously helps to support solutions. That's not saying we don't do basic science, but it is saying that we put a much greater priority on making that solutions-oriented. So that has a great deal of implications, I think, for setting our own agenda ahead. And we've already touched on the idea that we need processes which are of the ilk of the Future Earth proposal, which we'll hear a bit more about this morning, but which has been developing fantastically in the sessions over the last few days. So in closing, and all of that, sorry, I should say, is very much a matter of a two-way commitment. So in terms of the Rio process, I think we very much welcome the DG's comments at the end there and really do call for both sides of this potential improved contract between science and society to play their parts in enabling that global innovation system to work better. So in closing, I think the last section of the declaration argues that 2012 really does need to be a defining moment in history, and that has, well, it has many elements to it, but one of them, of course, is Rio, and I think we'll try to find ways of very strongly taking these messages and the more detailed ones in the declaration to Rio, and as Lidia said, to build on those over the next month or two to capture more of the richness at this conference that Lidia and I occasionally haven't managed to get to every minute of. But the other side of that is a challenge, I think, to us all to play our part in carrying these messages forwards and making that improved approach of science in a global innovation system work. With that, I'd like to just pass to Lynn to make a couple of last comments about this.
I would like to thank all of the people on the stage and in the audience for their contributions. We're not going to move ahead unless all of us reach out to our communities at multiple scales and convince them that we are facing a major problem if we don't change a number of our ways of operating at an economic, political, biophysical way. We can make a difference. We have to show that we can. I would like to thank all of the fantastic colleagues who have spent many hours preparing this conference. I would like to thank all of the participants in the conference itself. We've learned a lot from each other. I urge you to go forth after we finish this, convince people of the need, try to figure out things that can be changed at home at multiple scales, but let us hope that we can convince our international leaders that there is a challenge on their plate that has never been this big, and they must take action, or our future generations are very strongly endangered. I want to thank you all very much.
That was really rousing. Thank you so very much. Go forth, get your message out there.